Welcome, everybody.
There we are.
Hey, the Fahim Anwar Dance Hour. This is the first time I've actually had a musical guest on here.
That's right. We talked about that.
Yeah, it's very odd. This is like episode 67, and
Cool.
I've had no music people on it whatsoever. I think branding-wise, it's probably terrible that my comedy podcast is called Dance Hour.
Yeah, here we are.
And there is a music influence, but like it's always just in the songs that I put on the playlist.
Right.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like music plays such a big part of my life. Like music and comedy are my two favorite things in the world. Like music informs my comedy. And like I've been a big fan of yours for a long time before we even met.
Thank you. Yeah. That's
what's kind of
nice.
cool about,
Yeah.
well, first of all, Tyler Blake, everybody, one half of Classixx. You should check them out. Yeah. So like I think I was at Boeing and then I discovered you guys just on Hype Machine.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that's how I would discover a lot of the music. And
yeah.
you
How's
get,
Hype Machine these days?
still good, you know? I
Yeah.
think it's like not as big as it was
Right.
earlier, but like I'm a big proponent of it for finding new music. I would say Spotify and Hype Machine.
Yeah. Now I just look at your Instagram.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the stories. You
Yeah,
know,
some
that's
of
one
them,
of
yeah.
the biggest compliments is because like you're a musician and I love your stuff. And what I love is that I'm not biased because like I loved it before I even met you. So it's very cool to like become friends after the fact.
Yeah.
And it's not tainted.
Yeah, totally.
It's kind of like Adam at the Comedy Store. I knew him before he had any power over there as a GM.
Is that right? Oh, yeah.
because Tommy was like doing all the booking.
Yeah. I love Adam. And that's our connection.
Some
to it,
weird, maybe you've noticed this being an artist long enough too, where like you're in it long enough, you kind of, these roads connect.
Yeah.
You would have never thought.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. I'm not joking when I say I find songs on Spotify from your stories, because it's like, if you like our music, I hope that the music you like is something I also
Yeah,
like.
I guess so.
Yeah. And now it makes it easy sometimes to find stuff I like because of that,
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just like a easy way. I'm like, I like the song. Let me just throw it on my story. And sometimes I'll get DMs from people who are like, "Oh man, thanks for the songs." But yeah, COVID, man, how's that been affecting like the touring business or the music business?
No touring. It's just dead. I think at first it was scary and like a total terrible shock. A lot of money off the table, and also we love bringing what we do to people and feeling that and giving people that moment, especially live. People, the same way they go to see comedy, they get to have sort of a momentary escape from the minutia of life.
Sure, yeah.
And now I don't have that.
Did you just focus on more producing, or just what's cool about music though is like I kind of need people to inform, all right, this joke has some legs, this I gotta leave.
Right.
Like the audience is my editor.
Right.
Whereas music is kind of, when you're not collaborating, it's like semi done in a vacuum, and you and you present it to the people.
Kind of. Actually, I feel for you. I was thinking about this the other day. It's like, sometimes you get your satisfaction and I don't know, like validation by laughs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean the same. Actually, I make a lot of dance music, so we'll go out and DJ, and then you can tell. Sometimes we'll throw something we're working on into a set.
Oh, that's like stand up then.
Yeah, it's just like stand up, and we'll try to put it in between like some things that we know work. And when I say work, that the dance floor reacts to it, and if something we're doing works, it's kind of an immediate reaction in the same way. It's like dance music is. This is a dance hour. I mean, it's like that in that way, because you can tell if they're dancing. We've done this right.
That's a good point, man. There's like a physical manifestation of like, are you achieving your goal?
Yeah.
I guess no other music. I mean, a symphony if they're crying or something.
I mean, I used to be. It was a similar thing, probably of kind of the anxiety of telling a joke that you have no idea if it's going to fall flat or not. But I think what's cool about DJing, as opposed to we also play live as a band.
Yeah. I've seen both. I've come to DJ sets. And
Oh, cool. Yeah. I mean, A-Track,
the
DJ. He told me this too. He's like, cool thing about DJing is you can get out of it quickly. Like if your song's not working and you're like, oh, this
that's
sucks.
hilarious.
You know,
you
like
just crossfaded into the
just
next
get out of there. And but yeah, and then that's cool too, because you realize like, oh, that didn't work. We got to do this or this to.
It's crazy how similar that is to stand up though,
Yeah.
because if I have a new bit, I don't open with it.
Right.
I'll do.
No, you got to get them.
This is shit that you learn. You don't know this day one of doing stand up. You do it for long enough, you realize, okay,
Right.
I have a new bit. I want to give it the best chance. You're like nurturing a child. Let me give it the best chance to succeed.
Exactly. Yeah.
So let me do my fire shit maybe for the first 2 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then because then that's like you calibrating, knowing where the crowd is at, seeing where the calibration of the room is.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when you do the new thing,
yeah, right.
you have something to judge it against. So if it does really well, you go, oh, okay, that's great.
Totally.
That's on par with my fire stuff. If it dips, you go, okay, this kind of sucks.
Right.
Because they were hot for the A shit.
Yeah, well, that's imagine doing stand up in that way, except for you could tell other people's jokes. That's what DJing is like. Like you can tell, whatever Bill Burr's joke before yours. That's like not his best, but like pretty good.
Right.
And then do your joke and kind of compare it with, because like I'll put on like the same way. I'll build it up, but I don't want to put on something that is gonna blow whatever I'm gonna put on out of the water if it does suck. So it's funny in that way, and then if it works, it's a really great feeling, and then you put on another song that is gonna continue to work.
Right. So I mean, the way we met, I think I want to tell people because it's kind of interesting. So I was a fan of theirs. I like their music, and then Adam Egget, who was working at the Comedy Store, we kind of have a similar taste in music.
Yeah.
And we'll text each other songs every now and then.
Right.
And then I turned him on to you guys. I'm like, yo, check these guys out. And then he loved you guys. He really like took to you guys. He's like, oh, I love this shit.
Yeah, shout out to Adam.
Yeah, I love Adam.
He's the best, and he's been good to us.
And then, so then you guys, you're kind of tapped into the comedy community as well. You were just telling me, I didn't know this. Your dad works with Spade.
Yeah.
For a long time, right?
Yeah. Well, so my dad he's a production designer for film, and he's worked with Adam Sandler since Billy Madison, so that's 20 something. Who knows?
Classics, man.
Yeah. So he's worked on all the Happy Madison movies pretty much. So yeah, that was a weird kind of crossover in that we didn't even know that.
Right.
And
but
I'm not at all a comedy person.
But you're a comedy fan. I think there's this shared affinity. It's so I find that too. Like comics love musicians, and musicians love comics, and there's this like envy.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I've heard that. Like I've heard people talk about that.
I wish my brain worked like yours. I was listening to Hanging Gardens. That's their album. Like, is that your last album you put out?
That's our first album. Our last album is called Far Away Reach. Yeah.
Maybe it was a Far Away Reach. Which one's Holding On?
That's on the first one, which is
okay.
Gardens,
So I was listening to that on the way here, just like,
oh, cool.
I like to have a theme. It's like, I'm like, why not?
Oh, that's good.
But I love that album. And then, so I turned Adam onto it, and then Adam knows Spade and like that whole camp and Norm.
Totally. Yeah.
He's really good friends with Norm.
Yeah, who's just my favorite.
And then Norm and Adam had that podcast, right?
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Norm and Adam.
Yeah.
Which that's the best thing.
And then once you guys linked up, he was inviting you to the Comedy Store a lot, and then that's how we got to know each other.
Yeah,
so it was very serendipitous and very cool. So I'm wondering, like what is the creative process? Because I mentioned that I'm envious of, like, how do you come up with? It's so funny because I sound like the people who I roll my eyes at this when I get it as an artist, where they go like, where do you come up with your jokes?
Yeah.
How do you come up? You just go up there and you freestyle it, or where do you get your ideas?
Yeah. That's Adam plays the sort of sidekick to Norm and that's his thing. Goes,
yeah.
Where do you get your ideas? Yeah.
But I guess when it's so foreign, I am curious
because
it's a different thought process. I think in jokes, something will happen. And I go, oh, okay, this would be funny if I do this for an Instagram video, right? Like, I'm very good.
Yeah.
It's almost like, you see that, like, GIF of, like, Zach Galifianakis with all the numbers and stuff.
Yeah, right.
It's kind of like that. I just know very quickly.
I like how you said GIF.
Is it GIF or GIF?
I don't know.
I think it can go either way.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys
I'm
write
a
in.
GIF man.
You're a GIF man?
Yeah, I guess so.
I think it's supposed to be GIF.
All right.
We'll see.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Yeah. So like, what's the genesis of a song? Like, what's the kernel?
It's always different. I think I was just watching. I get distracted a lot, and I was watching Paul McCartney talk about, Let It Be or Yesterday coming in to him in a dream, and it's weird. Like, I'm not good at maybe anything except for music, and so I can own the fact that every once in a while I'll just kind of receive something like that a melody pops into my head, and I'll hopefully be clear enough to run to a piano or something and get that down, whether it's even just on my phone in the car or
and you just hum it, or
I'll hum it, or it could be in the shower. The one thing I think is really interesting, especially about kind of the times that we're in now, is like, I think you don't even have to be able to play instruments to be like a musician these days. And I think if you're the kind of person who just in the shower can sing a melody that's good, you can run to your computer and kind of work that out, and that can be a big electronic music song or something. And that's just something that I think I have had a strength for since I was a kid, and just I think if you're good at something, you gravitate towards it.
Yeah, you lean
want
into it.
So that's kind of what happens. And also with Classixx, which has been my sort of the project and band and creative outlet of my whole life thus far, I have a partner in that whose name is Michael.
He's like, I went to your guys' show, so it just so happened that we had gigs in Washington D.C. around the same time.
Yeah, right.
I was playing the DC Improv, and then you guys were doing place called?
That place is called U Street Music.
Yeah.
Hall. Yeah,
it's pretty famous. People are telling me like that's the spot.
It's a really cool spot. Our friend Will
I got to meet him there.
Yeah,
really cool guy.
Dude.
Yeah.
And that's one of the places that has sort of supported us. And I'd like to find a way to create some kind of virtual thing to keep those kinds of clubs alive, because
I know
everybody's having trouble.
What do you do
now. But
it was cool enough to you came to my show. You and your dad, actually.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
we got
of course.
Good seats and everything.
What's beautiful about doing stand-up is I can get my friends and family into a show so easy. It's just that's like one of the few perks.
Yeah, I've always
being an artist is like, and people are always like, "I'll pay." No, I insist. I'm like, it costs me nothing. Yeah. This is the only thing. Like, let me do this. You're not putting more money in my pockets. Like, your heart's in the right place. But just take the comp.
Yeah, right. Like we can get our.
So it was cool for you guys to come. Got to chop it up a little bit afterwards, and then I got to go and see your show.
Yeah,
it was same night, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So then I got to see you do your thing over there, and it was fun. I'm a big fan, obviously. And I was hanging out in the green room with you guys, remember? And then we popped out. And then this drunk guy, remember? He comes up to us and he's like, "Oh, dude, I fucking love you guys." Like, he thought I was Michael.
Oh shit, that's right.
Remember? He thought that I was up there playing.
Oh, I totally forgot about that.
And then we just played into it. I go, "Oh, thanks, man. Thank you for being a fan." So I just pretended I was in Classixx for a bit. I'm like, thanks. He was like, "Oh, let me get a selfie."
Right.
And he just couldn't do it. We were waiting for like 5 minutes for him to drunkenly take a selfie.
Right. That was
and he just couldn't do it. He's like,
because it was so dark.
It was so dark, and he was just so wasted.
And he kept showing us. We're like,
I guess that's fine.
Yeah, right.
But it was fun for me that I got to be in a band in this guy's head for a minute or two.
Yeah, right.
I was a rock star doing nothing.
My friend Jason has had that experience a few times where just has to just pretend.
Is it just you're far away and they kind of like, I'm associated with you, so their mind jumps to like, he has black hair.
I mean,
so does Michael.
We're kind of behind the scenes as like our music, we're not Daft Punk with robot heads or something, but in the same way, we're not singing on the songs ourselves. We're not.
What do you enjoy more? Because like, I mean, I think your productions are really sophisticated, and you've done remix in that game too.
Yeah.
Do you like that, or do you like performing live more, or does one hand wash the other?
Yeah, I mean, I like all of it. I think mainly I like being, in the studio, just composing and producing music and writing and sitting in front of a piano, or a synth or whatever it is. But I will say, having not done it for so long now, like it's like 7 months or something. It's crazy.
I'm starting to do little shows here and there.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's cool. Yeah.
So I was wondering if anything is like that happening with music. Are they doing drive-in shows?
Yeah, they're starting to do that.
Socially distant concerts.
Yeah, I think they're starting to do that. And I want to try to figure out how to do that in a creative way that seems authentic and also not self-serving.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's really for the people that love live music, you know, because it's not super profitable for a band at our level to do something like that, because the production value to make. So it's, you know, it would have to be right. But I am missing it, and I didn't think I would miss the airports and the touring and the buses and the vans and, you know, no sleep. And, you know, when you're on tour, I don't know what it's like for stand up, but you feel almost like you're a piece on like a conveyor belt kind of, and you're just and it's cool in a way that I miss, where you have to do something all the time, and it's in a weird way you don't have big high highs or big low lows. You're just sort of not feeling, but right now you just are feeling
everything
and hearing all your own thoughts. You have so much
time.
I'm having conversations in my mind with myself.
Yeah, but it seems like you're easing up a little bit. I remember we talked early quarantine. We were pretty locked down for a bit, and then now I think everyone's just being a little more smart about it. Just maybe not going to a rave or something. But yeah.
Well, I do feel lucky in the fact that, you know, you asked me like what is my favorite really is to just sit in a room by myself, like putting together things that's
so cool,
that turn something into a song.
You love creating.
Yeah, and also it's pretty conducive to being in quarantine. It's like I feel bad for people whose jobs or what their favorite things to do don't work that way.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean,
where you can't just like close the door and do your job.
Yeah, it just so happens that for me, that's kind of what I do.
Mine is half and half, because I still do have, I'll still get ideas. I'll still kind of hash them out in my notes. Maybe I'll do an Instagram video. Yeah. Maybe I'll write something for later. Maybe I'll write some bits that I can't do. Like early on in the quarantine, there was no shows, but I would still write bits. I just didn't know. You don't know how to massage it yet because you haven't presented it to an audience.
Yeah. Also, I imagine like, now, tell me this. I'm asking you a question. Like, I feel like you kind of save your best stuff for your act, and you don't want to give it up on social media, right?
It depends. For me, not really. For me, it's just sort of like, what is the best home for this idea? Right. So if I have a great idea that just doesn't really work in stand-up, or I think there's too many characters, I need a cut, or there's a feeling I'm trying to convey, like maybe it's pastiche, or I'm trying to create like an 80s flair. Like no words are going to translate this on stage. Right. So it needs to be an Instagram video or something.
Yours is, some of that's particular to you because you'll have yourself having conversations.
Yeah. So when I do that, it's so back and forth and so situational driven.
Yeah, because you can't be like,
yeah. You know, there's too many moving parts. It's funnier as a scene than it is a stand-up bit. Yeah. And if I tried to do it, it'd be like trying to push a square into a circle. Right. So even if something is a fire idea, if it doesn't work in stand-up, then it's not. I'm not going to put it in there because it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So I think best home wins for me for the idea.
Right. Yeah. That's cool.
But I liked hearing how. I just like talking to creative people, especially different fields as well. How you come up with stuff. So you just like, because I feel that way about myself too when it comes to comedy. Sometimes there's nothing going on. I'm getting nothing, but I've been in it so long that I just know I'm in a valley, and like art, the life of an artist in terms of creating is just, it's like the stock market, you know? Yeah. I just know that eventually it'll come back. I'll be at a crest. Right. And I think of it as a faucet that's like off and on, and just when it's on, you just have to be ready to put the bucket there. and that's how I jot my ideas down. Yeah. So I just have to be ready to receive it. Like I have the antenna, but sometimes I'm not getting anything. Right. And that's okay. But it comes pretty fully formed. Is the same true with?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, because I think, you know, people are right now have this idea to do all these different things now that they have time. So it's like, oh, I'm gonna write a novel or whatever.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a chef. I'm gonna make some bread.
Well, why is everybody making bread?
Why was everyone buying toilet paper and making bread?
Oh, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
That's the last on my list of things I want to do, is learn how to make bread.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, I just continue to do music, but in different ways. That's the cool thing that's sort of actually helping me. I'm doing music, but different kinds, you know, stuff that I always wanted to do but couldn't, because I had to focus on Classixx or touring or whatever it is. And I was like, man, it'd be cool to make a punk record with my friend, which I'm doing right now.
That's awesome.
It'd be cool to, you know, work on some of these ideas that don't work for my band and do some solo stuff or whatever it is. And it's just, yeah, I mean, there's things that I never even knew I wanted to do, and I'm trying them now because somebody's asking me to, and I'm saying yes a lot more to doing stuff because I can.
Yeah.
And it's making me just better and more rounded. And I think that is something that can be cool for anything, you know. I feel lucky that I have one sort of specific thing that makes sense to me that I can throw everything into.
Yeah. And then because, you know, when you're in a band with someone, what is that workflow like? There's joys of doing solo, but then sometimes people work well together as well. I'm wondering what that split is. Like, what are your strengths? What are his strengths? How do you, I don't know, I guess, how do you like co-write a song, or what is that? Like, how organic is it? What's the process?
Well, for me and Mike, my bandmate in class,
he refused to be. No, I'm just kidding. No, I didn't ask him. I just know you so much more.
Yeah, no,
Mike's a cool guy.
He's
but
the best. Yeah, I'm gonna see him in like right after this.
Maybe I'm gonna break you guys up. Just like, so you're this week, and then I'll get Mike next week.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yeah.
I go.
That's too much Classixx for one podcast, I think.
That's why I'm breaking it up half and half.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, it's cool. I mean, it's very different right now. You know, also he just had a kid, and so honestly, we sort of took some time off for him to figure out what that would be like. To
the kid's your Yoko.
No, he's the best. But then, you know, also I was figuring out some stuff of my own, and so we kind of took some time where we weren't touring, and then all of a sudden, right when we started touring, which is when I saw you, it just stopped. But we have a bunch of music that we had been working on, and, you know, new music that we're still working on, but it's different.
But I'm curious, the actual nitty gritty, because I'm just a nerd for this shit. Are you like, I have this melody, hear it, and then he goes, okay, what about this, adding this into it?
Yeah.
Is one a drums guy and one is like a melody guy, or do you wear all the hats?
I think we're both have similar strength. I mean, he's a very good guitar player. Classically trained. He's one of the best guitar players I know. And I am a keyboard player. So that helps us sometimes figure out which role to play. But when we're in the studio together, we have a studio in Venice, and we'll just get in there and bounce ideas off each other, and that has been probably the way that things work best, you know. So it's a bummer in a way to not be able to have that right now, because it's not like we want to get tested every couple of days just because I don't want to fuck his kid up or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's different. Luckily, we had a bunch of stuff that we had kind of already worked on, and now we can do it remotely and pass ideas back and forth through, you know,
it's like the postal service.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's this.
Here's
this.
I don't know why, but that's always, it's fun. I don't know who knows who the postal service is, but that was their method. Was they would record one thing and pass it back and
they would mail it. That's why they were called the postal service.
Yeah,
so they would record, then they would mail the tapes or whatever, and then they would work on it and then send it back. And
so it's a little bit more like like that, which I think, you know, is a cool process for sure, but
it's different, definitely different.
It's not as fun,
and it's not
also,
as organic, I would believe.
Yeah. And I miss just being in there with him,
yeah,
because like we're also just like
you've known each other a long time, huh?
Yeah, since we were, you know, 13 actually. So yeah, so I mean, I miss it, but I'm gonna see him today.
Right. Tell him what's up.
We got tested here. We got our masks.
Yeah.
And everything.
So is it kind of like a jam session then when you guys are together? And that's how, is it like a kernel of an idea and then jamming a little bit?
Sometimes. Yeah, sometimes for sure. And then other times, you know, it's the other thing that we do, which I think, I don't know how this applies to other types of art or whatever, but we'll reference something, you know, to get to like stuff that Adam likes or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
We'll like listen to a New Order song or something. We'll be like, oh, I like this thing. Let's try to do that. And at the beginning, honestly, we would just fall short and just it wouldn't sound like that.
Yeah. But it was the rocket fuel.
Well, but it would just sound like us instead, which was different, and maybe not as cool to us as what they had done. But you know, after doing that with somebody else for long enough, it just starts sounding like a certain thing, whether or not that's good, you know, it's subjective. Right. But you know, we literally been working on music together since we were kids, and also, you know, we discovered all the same music that we like in the same room, you know, pulling out records or CDs or burned CDs or CDRs, Winamp or whatever.
Dude, that's my generation
all
too.
That stuff. And so, you know, there's mainly this unspoken thing that's like, we don't have to have that dialogue of explaining.
It's a shorthand.
Yeah, it's a shorthand.
It's like really when you play basketball with someone, you know they're going up for the alley.
Yeah, and that's something I really miss, you know, which I think is probably something that writing partners miss about being in the same room as each other if they can't be in you know, any kind of creative process.
Yeah, I'm always interested at the parallels between comedy and music. And the business side of it too. I'm kind of I'm in the dark about it. I know kind of how comedy works, just being in it a while.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Hey, if you have any questions, let me know. But I bet they're very similar. But just as someone on the outside, what is the business of music like, and the trajectory and like the blueprint? And I'm sure it's changed like it has in comedy with like social and SoundCloud taking over. It's like, what was true when we were growing up? Like there was a model when I was growing up for comedy. It was do a late night, get like a premium blend set. So that's like a 7-minute set on Comedy Central. Then the half hour.
Right.
And then you were kind of made, the half hour was like a big deal. Like Dane got big off the half.
Yeah, right.
People would do halves on Comedy Central and like that was it. But now the half hour is just like.
Well, I mean, it's like, always evolving, because it used to be like you do Carson and all of a sudden you're famous. Right? But like, I mean, music's the same. I mean, it's.
I guess what was the model, and then what are you seeing it trend towards now?
Well, you asked how the business is. I would just say bad.
Yeah.
Because honestly, the thing about monetizing actual sales or whatever, I mean, you get pennies on
Spotify.
You get pennies on not the dollar, but the $100 bill, you know? So, so that's a drag. But I mean, also the cool part about it is that since, you know, and I'm actually sort of dating myself because it's been this way for a while, but you know, for us, the fact that anybody in the world can, you know, find your music because of the internet, you know, suddenly you have fans in Indonesia and we can go play in Indonesia. Whereas like, you know, 25 years ago, you had to be, you know, the Rolling Stones for anybody in Indonesia to know who you are. And we are not.
Hey man, yeah, you are.
But you know, it's cool. I think it's an interesting thing that I'm curious about, because now I think there's certain things like, you know, these streaming, you know, people doing these live streams. You know, I saw James Blake do one, who I don't know if anybody, but he's great. And you know, I watched him, and on that he said he kind of looked at the amount of people that were on the thing, and it was, I don't know, it was like 70,000 people or something.
Whoa.
And he was like, whoa, this is the biggest show I've ever played.
How crazy.
And he's not getting paid at all for this. And that's
Wow.
that's a problem, I think, whereas that, you know, I don't want to call, like, I hate how we're calling things your brand or whatever, but you're cheapening your value as a performer to play technically the biggest show that's bigger than Coachella in some senses.
For free.
And nobody, you're just sitting in your living room and not getting a dime from it. And I think, you know, there's a certain point where I hope, I mean, people are doing it already. People are trying to figure this out, but this is going to go longer than we think. You know, shows, unfortunately, they're not coming back, you know, as soon as we hope, probably. That's my, that's my guess. But I think some of that is going to have to be monetized, or else your favorite bands or the bands you don't even know it about yet aren't going to exist. Because, you know, like for me, I worked a job. I worked as a PA on those movies. And I didn't quit that job until I could start.
What was the turning point for you? So you're working as a PA because your dad works with Happy Madison.
Yeah, which is really, you know.
Yeah, it was cool.
Classic nepotism.
Yeah, that's not. No one's gonna blame you. Like, how did you get this PA job? I want to tape cardboard on set and tell talent to knock on their trailers and say they're ready for you. I want that job.
It was a good.
Yeah, if you're the lead in the movie, people will be like, yeah, okay, fuck this guy. But like,
it was a pretty good gig for a young kid.
Sure. But
yeah,
what was that turning point where you're like, oh, I can do this full time?
I mean, that's kind of a long story, but we started DJing around here in Los Angeles, and some of the people that helped us were DJ AM.
Tell me all the names, because I know all the like, as a fan, I just want to know.
Yeah, DJ AM, who is you know, he's passed away, rest in peace and everything. But he championed us and started booking us. You know, we would do these DIY parties and DJ, and so then
Dim Mak, was that later or was that the same
time?
That
was like the same time.
Okay.
Steve Aoki ran that. I mean, it's funny because our music is so vastly different from what his music is now, but we happen to be in that dance community at a time when mostly the stuff that you would hear in clubs would be like
Justice.
Well, not even that.
Before?
Like before that, you would hear, you know, it would be like to the window, to the wall, and like you wouldn't hear anything. You wouldn't hear Justice or, you know, the Rapture, or I don't know what you would.
So it was just like party rap, like crunk music.
That's what it seemed like to me. And then, you know, where Steve has ended up with EDM and whatever else. At that time, he was playing. You know, you could go to a club that he was curating, and it would be, you know, sort of disco rock or all mixed in. And AM was really, really good at doing that too. And our music was less like that, obviously.
Yeah, I think you guys provided a great counterbalance. To the scene.
Yeah, so at first it was really aggressive, kind of like almost like an alternative to punk.
You know what's interesting? Like I think one of the first songs, I don't know if it was the first, but it was definitely early on in my introduction to you guys. And it's a song I really like, but I think when I asked you about it, you're like, "Oh yeah, we weren't even trying on that track." Or that's like not our vibe. It's I'll Get You, right?
Oh yeah. Well,
or no, which one is it? No, it's like We Came Here to Get Started.
Oh well, yeah.
I mean, what is it called? Akdil?
That was one, but that's pretty hard to find. It's I think that was the first thing we kind of did. But
I love that song.
Well, that's cool.
So what's the story behind that? So you guys, I forgot what you told me. You said that wasn't your vibe, or we were trying to do a certain thing on that track.
Well, yeah, that's like a kind of a interesting, like a thing that at that time, you know, I feel like this is esoteric to certain people that
I don't care. This is my podcast. I don't give a shit.
But yeah, no, at that time, you know, there was a group called Justice from France, and
I was a big fan. Like,
yeah, me too.
It just changed the landscape of like EDM. EDM is just so it's been around for so long that it's almost a caricature of itself. Right. Justice was so fresh and different, and just really kind of threw a wrench in the gears of whatever you consider to be electronica music.
Right. Well, yeah, I think it was we loved that too, and also I think something to make this a little bit more relatable was just Daft Punk. You know, like
yes,
Daft Punk
I felt like they was Second Coming, or
yeah, and it was kind of like I started listening to Daft Punk when I was in high school, and
they were my introduction to this genre of music that I listen to, that I champion on Dance Hour. Obviously, it's evolved, but it's sort of like I always, it's easy to shit on pop music now that I'm older, and I don't listen to anything top 40 and all that, but I feel like pop music is training wheels for humans as they develop. It's very accessible. You get elements of sophisticated music, but it's very accessible.
Right.
And then over time, if you are curious or have a curious mind for music, you discover these branches on the tree.
Right.
And you can go like really far out on these branches. But there is a purpose and a place for pop music. And then Daft Punk, they definitely weren't pop, but they were a great entry point for dance music.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because some of it is you listen to a record like Homework or something, and that is pretty not pop, and but then all of a sudden you hear One More Time, One More Time, and that's
Discovery.
That is a pop. That's a huge pop record. I remember,
Well, Around the World was a hit off of Homework.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, and that was that. It's not. It's left of center, but it's catchy. So, and anyway, so Justice and these bands were doing stuff like that, and we kind of tried to imitate that thing, and it just felt like not true to what we would just do if that just didn't exist.
Yeah.
And the music that we grew up on more, and some of the stuff that our parents were listening to when we were younger, it still resonates with us, and we. I think we really like. I went through a phase where I listened to metal and sort of like aggressive kind of music, but as I got to be a little older, it didn't feel like me really. So a lot of people will call our music chill or whatever, even stuff that I think is really driving. They'll be like, oh, that's so chill. I just sit next to a pool and drink a Aperol Spritz, and it's just perfect. And that's kind of what our music is more like. So in the club, it was a little different, and kind of coming back to DJ AM, who sort of changed the dance music culture in Los Angeles, which is just where.
How did he change it? Like
just playing different stuff, like playing us, for example. He would start playing something of ours, which isn't this. The point of it is not to be as hard and aggressive or high energy as possible, but in a DJ set, what he was really great at being able to do was take you sort of through these peaks and valleys, like you were saying before, and you're you could put on something that kind of maybe you've been tired from dancing too much, and then you kind of can groove, and then he'll put on something else, and the way he transitioned that was great. And he championed us, and then people started hearing about us more and more, and we started getting to tour, and our fees to go play in different places made me be able to quit my job. And I feel super bad for people who that's just not possible for right now.
That's interesting though. You say that the influence was Justice on that track, right? But because that was of the time, I would say, like that everyone was kind of about that,
right?
I think you're so close to it as an artist where you're like, oh, we were trying to do this, but I think there's still merit in it, and it's almost just fun to look at as an exercise.
Yeah, right.
Because maybe you're like, oh, like we favor this, but just as a fan from the outside, I still think it has a lot of merit, even though the inspiration may not be
right,
coming from the most altruistic place or
in a certain way, it's like, whatever your first joke was that kind of worked or something. It's like maybe it was super hacky, or maybe it was somebody else's joke a little bit or whatever. But that still feels like yours in a way,
right? Like whatever you create beyond the jump off point, there's still, because it's like, I could be like, hey, give me something to joke about, like give me a week, but give me a topic. and you say something, and then I go and I think about it for a week and I pour over it.
Do you do that?
No, but I'm just saying as an exercise, though, right. I'm trying to do like an analogous thing here to paint a picture. So say you say chairs, and then I go for like 2 weeks and I wrap my head around chairs.
Yeah.
And I end up making this amazing bit.
Right.
You know, when I do it to an audience, someone's like, "Oh, I fucking love that chair bit."
Yeah.
I know where it came from, and like maybe this the impetus feels hollow.
Yeah.
Because you told me to, hey, write something on chair. But that doesn't negate the artistic value of what was developed from the springboard.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So I think like, it may be different than what you guys, most of your catalog.
Yeah.
But I still think it's really cool. And
oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I think you kind of, at the beginning, you have moments where you kind of connect a little bit, and then there's sort of these stepping stones to where you end up. And I don't I'm curious what your sort of early stages of were before you kind of had your thing, like where
I think, I mean, again, this is another shared thing where when you first start doing an art form, you're just throwing a bunch of spaghetti against a wall.
Yeah.
You don't really have a voice yet.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You're just kind of taking a stab at it, and you're almost surprised when something works. I think early on, me doing stand-up, I love The Simpsons. I always talk about my influences. My influences are
one of the
early
best shows.
Yeah, my favorite. Early Simpsons, like me growing up, like that was the glory days of The Simpsons.
Yeah, totally.
So that, and like, I'm trying to think what else I was watching, SNL, but mainly The Simpsons was like my teacher. So I feel like I had like a pretty absurd, sophisticated comedy brain, and I would be up there. There would be this disconnect. I would be kind of like a guy doing stand-up comedy. You know what I mean? There was an invisible barrier kind of between me and the audience, like an emotional, you could tell, like I may have had some great ideas and some like set pieces, but I wasn't present. I'm so far removed from it now, I could call a spade a spade. Like,
right.
Like, I think I had some great jokes. But this like connecting with an audience and being in the moment wasn't there. I didn't get that until I got passed at the Comedy Store.
Right.
And I was doing,
what's it called? You get passed at the store or whatever?
That means that you can call in for spots, and you get to do the original room, and you're on the lineup. You're like part of the family.
Yeah.
You may not be in the heart of the lineup when you first get passed, but you get spots. Yeah. So, and then when you first get passed, you get like super late night sets. So there's 5 people in the crowd.
Right.
It's 1:40 a.m.
But they're wasted.
And some are wasted, and then you also learn. It was just a great accelerator for teaching you nothing is precious.
That's a good point.
Especially as a stand-up, because if you're doing just like packed shows all the time as a new comic, and then like a bar show will scare you, and not everyone, or because you think you need 200 people who are super attentive. Like that's nice, that's great to have. But you need to know how to do the 2 people in the crowd. You know how to, if you want to be a well-rounded comedian, you need to be able to do any type of crowd.
Yeah, that's the same with music. And like we played a show once. We did a tour, and when you do a tour at our level, you're gonna have some shows that aren't good ones.
Yeah,
because you got to fill the dates and we did one in Syracuse. Nothing against Syracuse,
No, I'm gonna shit on Syracuse right now.
Fuck,
get your act together.
No, but we did one there, and it was really funny because it was a huge venue. I want to say like maybe 1,000-person venue, and there was maybe 40 people there. But in that, it seemed like there was no one there.
Yeah, no shit.
And I remember I put on my iPhone but it was on a Friday night, which is like a wasted Friday night for that.
Wait, was it a college?
Well, it was in a venue next to the college, I think.
But was it a collage event?
I don't know, but it was supposed to. There were supposed to be college kids
because this happens with comedy as well, stand up.
Yeah.
This is pre-COVID when colleges are just like fleecing kids, and they just have all this money. Tuition is crazy; it keeps going up every year.
Yeah, right.
So they just have this crazy fat budget, and they have to spend X amount of money every year for entertainment, for on-campus alternatives, because they don't want them to go drinking and doing all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So they'll give these artists crazy money.
Yeah, right.
just to babysit these 18-year-olds, these like 17 and 18-year-olds.
Yeah. So we've done a bunch of
yes,
for sure.
So that's what it was.
Yeah, and I remember, who knows what happens? So these people are going to keggers or something instead of going to the Classixx show.
You realize,
or whatever.
like, oh, these are all the nerds who couldn't go to like a frat party.
Yeah, maybe so. But I remember I put my friends were in back home here, and I missed them all, and I had called them and I said this is going to be a rough one, and they're like, just put us on FaceTime, like just on your keyboard kind of, and we'll put it on the TV at our party. And we'll watch you, and at least like you get to play a show to your friends.
Oh,
which we haven't
that's so cool.
So I put that on, and like it helped me actually. Which one thing, as you know, like you never phone it in, even if there's 5 people out there. Like,
that was the greatest lesson.
You gotta
give them a show. Like if you don't want to be there,
it's demoralizing kind of, because you're like, oh, aren't we supposed to be popular in this college town or whatever? But yeah, it was cool, and they watched, and like every once in a while we kind of like look over, do like a break the wall and like look over, and they would just be laughing, and it made it easier to do it, and we didn't phone it in, we still
give them a show,
try to be showmen and whatever.
When it comes to comedy, because like still with music, you're like, you can be into the music. It's less about reading. It's different. It's a different type of like connecting with an audience.
Right.
So in terms of not phoning it in for 5 people when it comes to stand-up, that means you have to connect.
Right.
And like want to be there, and you can slip into jokes, but you have to be real. Yeah. Like I can't say I'm going to give it my all and just do like a Madison Square Garden set for 5 people.
Yeah, totally.
Because then I'm out to lunch, or I'm a crazy person, or this is sad.
Right.
This guy's delusional.
Yeah.
So when it says don't phone it in, it's not, don't be that, but it's hey, what's up, guys? What are you up to, or what are you getting into? It's just being a person, being happy to be there, weaving in and out of jokes, just accepting the reality of the situation.
Yeah, totally. And also probably some of those shows for the kids that come,
They probably loved it.
They probably loved it because they were the kids that actually loved us, or whoever you go to see, the most out of all the people that are in their college or whatever. So that then you have those people, and so you can't let them down, you know? And the other thing about it, it's like, people ask, like, do you get nervous if you play a big show? And I think like I'm way more nervous when I play to a crowd like that, because if you play like,
they're just a blob. It's like you're playing to...
Yeah, well, like a Lollapalooza or a Coachella or something, you just see this sea. It's like one but when you can see like the one kid,
the
like,
one guy with glasses,
yeah, and he's like singing along.
You're like, I should have known where his hair parts. This is too much.
Yeah, right. But I mean, for me, I think I saw some of my favorite bands before they got big at, the Troubadour, and it wasn't even sold out here, and that's a very small venue.
Like who? I'm curious.
Oh man, I was into like kind of post-punk and early emo stuff when I was at that time. So like I saw Bright Eyes, like like at the Troubadour, and Michael saw, I think, like Arcade Fire or something like that in one of those kinds of settings, and you'll remember that show more than you remember walking by Arcade Fire while they're playing at Coachella, whatever. But yeah, I think that, those moments are really important to be able to get through. And, I hear comics talking about that all the time, of just dying up there instead of killing,
Yeah. But yeah, I guess that's the beauty of it, though. Is like people are fearful of like, oh man, I can't do what you do, or they think it's so terrifying doing stand-up.
I mean, I can't even imagine. Yeah.
Maybe. I always hear that too. Like a lot of people's biggest fear is public speaking, or like, what if they don't laugh? Yeah, like I'll get that sometimes. Like, don't you get scared? Like, what if they don't laugh?
Yeah.
And then they don't laugh. Like, but you
totally.
have to. Yeah, you kind of, for some reason, the human body puts that like as a bear or something. Yeah. Someone not laughing. But when you break it down to its bare essentials, is like if I do a joke, well, first of all, I've been doing it long enough where I can like play it off and be like, that didn't work. I could save it. I can just, it's not precious.
Right.
I'm not going to crumble if a joke doesn't do well.
Right.
That's the other thing too. You realize is like, you learn not to need anything from the audience.
Yeah.
You're there for you. You've done it a million times.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing ideas out there. If it doesn't work, I'm okay.
Right.
90% of stand-up is like the audience knowing that like you're okay without them.
Right. Yeah.
Because you could tell when someone early, they're up there and they're like, I have a roommate, and so like they need the laugh.
Yeah.
If they don't get a laugh after this premise, like they're gonna cut themselves or something. And then as an audience, no one wants to laugh at that, or it's just too like, oh, they need too much. It's almost like a relationship.
Exactly,
like this person needs me to be whole. That's too much pressure.
Yeah. Also, I mean,
so if the joke doesn't do well, it doesn't do well. I'll go on to the next one. And I mean, I was worse at this earlier on as a comic, just because I didn't have as much experience. But I was very cool with bombing. I mean, I didn't love it, but like I would shake it off. I'd be like, I'm never gonna see these people again in my life.
Right.
These are all strangers. I don't invite my friends and family. Like I was never one of those type of comics. Like, come see me at the Chuckle Hut. Bring all your friends. And
yeah, right.
Some comics are like that.
Handing out flyers.
Like, I'm pretty far along, and I don't tweet a lot of shows, or if I'm working on something in my head, I'm just sort of like, I want to be able to be as free as I can, have the safety net of eating shit and no one I know being there.
Yeah, it does take.
I never do eat shit anymore. Really, there's just like shades of like, maybe like okay is as bad as it gets.
Yeah,
but I like early on, I would just like being able to, if I don't do well, I don't do well. I learn from it. I tweak it. I'm never going to see those people again.
Yeah.
And you learn that it's just a feeling. It's not a reality.
Well, yeah. And also, I mean, you had to go through doing that and having it not be the end of the world.
Yes,
where it's not like you did it and then, the promoter,
the experience.
Like, you're done, kid, or something like that.
With a cigar. You're done, kid. You didn't laugh. You need 100% hit rate at this club.
I mean, there's a certain amount of confidence that comes from
experience
doing that and whatever. And with us too. And also, I mean, I'm curious, like, for us, when we're doing a headlining show, they're there. They like us already. Like
I'm envious of that because.
But I mean, some of your shows you do that, and those people are already they're
now.
ready to like it. They're not ready to shit on you, really. Or is everybody always like that in comedy?
So it's different when they know who you are because you already have the goodwill.
Yeah.
Because they already like you.
Right.
So playing to your fans is a different experience than being anonymous.
Right. Well, it's a funny thing that you bring that up because that same night, what we were talking about when you came and watched us, we were actually opening for James Murphy. Who is from LCD Sound System.
I love them too. They're great.
They're one of the greatest modern live bands.
I heard he was going to write on SNL, but he turned it down.
I think it was Seinfeld.
Yeah. How crazy.
James was, he turned it down. He's a funny guy. But he was just DJing that night. But people had come out to see James Murphy from LCD Sound System DJ.
And I was there for you guys, man. I was like, boo!
Even like,
get Classixx back up there.
But it's a weird thing while you're up there, and you're kind of just playing in front of people waiting to see like the other thing.
Yeah. I know what you mean. I've opened for some big comedians.
And, right.
And I kind of liked it. Like I opened for Neil Brennan on this like little theater tour.
Oh yeah, he's funny.
I love Neil. And then, but it was kind of. Because I'm a headliner, but especially back then, no one really knew who I was. It's like Bill Burr talks about it where you're like killing in obscurity.
Yeah.
After shows, people will be like, you're great. How come I don't know about you?
Oh, that's the funny one. When they come up and are like,
you're
never
great.
heard of
I've
you.
I've never heard of you. Why haven't I heard of you? Oh, you're so great. You're better than like, like, oh, thanks. You know? So you're just killing in obscurity, but nobody knows who you are.
Yeah.
So, but Neil's doing theaters. And I go, and I'm still making as much as I would headlining. Right. And I like Neil, and it's very low pressure. I'm doing 20 minutes, 25 minutes.
Were you middling, or were you?
No, it would just be me and him.
Just you and him, yeah, okay.
And it was funny, because I'm so used to someone introducing me, or I've done shows where, like, maybe someone will introduce me, and then I was like, hey, Neil, can you introduce me? He's like, just do it yourself. And I'm like, I really didn't want to do it, but then we started doing it the whole tour. And every show I'd be like, how's everybody doing tonight? I can't hear you. Please welcome. And I'd be like giving myself my own, you've seen this guy on CONAN. And then I would, Fahim Anwar. And I would come out and I'd be like, oh man, thanks so much. That guy is so cool. Oh, what a great announcer.
What a great dude.
Yeah, but it was fun because it was a free spin for me as a performer. They don't know who I am. They don't really care. They're there to see Neil. Not in an aggressive way, but it's all net positive.
Yeah.
I can only gain fans. There's no pressure. The show's not going to tank because I didn't do well. They're there to see Neil.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, I was able to like reach a lot of people and get some fans just like, oh, fuck, cool. I had no idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously good when your comedy is seemingly,
congruent with the headliner.
Attracts to the same sensibilities as people. That's music. You're going to try to play with somebody who's, I mean, ideally, you would think that if you like their music, you'll like our music, but it's not so similar that like,
yes, where you're like
where you don't
overlapping.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, the funny thing is like we went on tour opening or kind of switching off with this band called Toro y Moi.
I love Toro.
Yeah, me too. And Chaz is the greatest dude. But I remember at the beginning of that tour, he would, we would come out and, before you're on, you know how there's like music playing before the band actually comes on. Like we came out the first night and it was just like, we found white hole pen.
That was playing before you guys came out?
Like, what is going on?
Who's playing this?
Who would play this for this show? And then, like, oh, whatever. But it was kind of disarming because we were just laughing, and then we play the show. And then it happened again the next night, and then the third night, and then finally, the third time it happened, I looked over and Chaz from Torio, he's just like laughing side stage, and he's been doing it to us every night. But that's kind of a cool thing of like disarming the weirdness of being the act that people are just waiting to see the other act.
Yeah.
For. And I don't know. I think we've also done sort of. I don't want to say famously because I would never call us famous, but we once played a show opening for a very big EDM artist.
Who? Come on, man.
I don't know. We opened for Zed.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I know
who's
Zed.
he's put out some good hits, and he's really good at what he does and everything.
Where was it?
Well, they were in these two separate. We did two of them. And the first one was in New York, on the river, kind of like one of those. I don't know. It was like an outdoor thing, and it was huge. It was like 10,000.
Oh, okay.
It was like kind of a big show, and we went out and we weren't DJing. We were playing live, which means we can't change it up. We can't. We just got to play our song.
No crossfade.
And within the first few minutes, we just realized like these kids want like the most maximal, like the most maximal sort of
they wanted drops.
Yeah,
give them the drops.
And our music is a little more subtle,
more vibey. They didn't want to like.
And we looked out, and it was just a sea of just a dead sea of people.
Yeah.
And like we're fucking up there, like they're peaking on Molly, probably just like waiting for
a drop that never comes.
Yeah, right.
You gave them drop balls, dude.
And we can't do anything. We've got a 40-minute set that we just got to keep. So we kind of put our heads down. We are still trying to, show up and.
Yeah, but that like you're a victim of circumstance. There.
Yeah, right.
That's the bookers. Like I'll have that too. Sometimes I get booked to do a corporate thing.
Yeah, right.
And they just want to talk, and that's not on me.
Yeah.
That doesn't lessen what I'm doing. It's just like. Oh, whoever booked me didn't know the situation.
Well, it was kind of
there's nothing I could do in my power to turn this around.
Exactly, and it was kind of an experiment, but it didn't work. And the funny thing about that is, I think we decided like, could we sort of open for this and be like a ramp up into this thing that's a lot bigger of a multimedia experience or whatever.
You should have played Cold Act Ill 20 times.
So we played it, and then I started, we don't usually get sort of a lot of trolls, but
you got a lot of trolls
on Twitter. You just there was literally hundreds of kids saying, Classixx is the worst dubstep band I've ever seen, and it's hilarious to us. And
we're dubstep.
Some press they picked it up and thought it was hilarious, like Pitchfork, who knows, and they picked it up and. it ended up being really funny because there was kind of a backlash to it, and like we could joke around about it. Like I even wanted to make a shirt that was a Classixx merch item that just said, Classixx is the worst dubstep band tweet. But the funny thing about that is that we had to do the same thing in Chicago the next night after. And we knew it was the same. But so
yeah, what are you gonna do?
Those things. It's like if you did a show with I don't know.
Yeah, totally different. Or like Cat Williams. They don't want to like Cat's great.
Sure,
but I'm not. I'm not in that bandwidth.
Right.
They would hate me.
Yeah. Probably.
But I would just be like, oh well, that sucks. There's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
What did Zed say? Was he just like my bad?
No, he's a cool dude, and we kind of know him, and we had the same agent and whatever, and he I don't know. Man.
Well, it'd be like
I don't know if he had heard that it went so badly or what, but
he was just like meditating before the show. He wasn't even paying attention.
Yeah, right.
Huh. So you went to Berkeley?
I did, yeah.
That's a pretty famous music school, huh?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I think Eric Andre went there too.
Yeah, that's right.
He played the bass.
Yeah, and I know Eric. He's he's like really talented bass player apparently.
I played bass. I was so bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I played electric bass because in 4th grade, I think. They had orchestra, and you could choose an instrument, and you could play electric bass, and that looked cool. I was like, oh, cool. That's like the guitar. Yeah. There was no guitar option. There was just electric bass.
Yeah.
So I did that. I was never very good. I think I could probably play Mary Had a Little Lamb or Rapper's Delight.
Right.
But that's about it. And then and then I quit.
Bass is funny because to get it, to play like a Blink-182 song or something, it's pretty easy because there's less string. You don't have to play chords. But to be very good at it, it's really hard to get it,
Yeah, he was doing stand-up bass. I remember, I think I got to 6th grade, and then they said you can't play the electric bass anymore. You have to play the upright bass. So it was a bait and switch.
That's really
They got me in with the rock star stuff, and then I'm a little kid. And it's so big for a little kid.
It's so big.
And it's hurting my wrists, the bow, because there's all this lever arm is so heavy.
Yeah, that's a tough.
And I would have to lug it everywhere onto the bus. It was the worst. Yeah. So then, did you get a scholarship there or?
No, but it's funny because I applied and I think my grades were good. SAT was fine. I don't know, but also. I think I kind of lied about my abilities, actually.
How do you do that?
Well,
is there a test?
Yeah, I don't know. There's also, I can't remember, but I don't know how to sight read music. I know how to compose, but some kind of disconnect.
So you can't read sheet music?
Yeah, like even if you put like Mary Had a Little Lamb, like I could probably play it by ear and pretend that I'm sight reading it, but my 13-year-old cousin that was taking piano lessons for 6 months at that time was probably better than me at that. So yeah, I mean, I went there and I did all right. I was good at everything except for that part.
Oh, so it's like a DMV test kind of. They teach or they like test you on these different things?
Yeah, so that part I was bad at. So I found loopholes and ways to get around that.
How?
Well, first of all, I started with piano there because I'm a better piano player than I am anything else, and I realized on the piano, this is getting so boring probably, but there's 12 different notes in the key, and each one has different fingerings on the piano, so you have to learn 12 times as much stuff as the guitar, which you can just move it all over the place. So I switched to guitar immediately, even though I wasn't that good at it, and I realized that was 12 times easier. And then when it would get to like there'd be the part on the test where it would, you can edit this out if it's super boring. We'll see. But there's a part on the test where you're graded on the sight reading part, and I realized 10% of that was the notes, and then 10% of that was just the rhythm, and I could read the rhythm fast enough, so I would play the rhythm all on the same note. And I would get at least 10% if I got all the rhythm right, and then every time it accidentally landed on that note, I would get that right too. So I think I got like a 90 something.
So you like hacked the test?
I hacked the test, man.
Whoa.
But yeah, I truly think as far as that kind of musicianship goes, I was maybe the worst at the whole school.
So how long were you there?
I went there for 2 years, and I learned a ton. I learned about arranging, and
Yeah, do you pick a major when you go there? Like,
yeah, I picked a major which was basically synthesis, like learning about synthesizers, which is something that helped me a lot with what I do.
Yeah.
Really nerdy stuff, but also stuff that kind of opened up my skill set to be able to make things just a bit more interesting harmonically. And whatnot. Yeah.
Huh. Korgs. What kind of keyboard guy are you? What are you?
Everything, man. I could talk about synthesizers all day.
There's this YouTube channel I was watching. This guy, he would repair keyboards.
Yeah.
It's like this YouTube channel. I think they put out a video maybe like every week. This guy will get a call from somewhere like, oh, we got to go to. He takes his family and he repairs like these old ass synthesizers like Yamaha.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just geeked on that for a few while.
Yeah, I mean, I if I'm at a party and I don't know somebody, and it's like, usually in my circle there's some musicians. If there's a guy that's like a big synth nerd, I can go and we can nerd out for a couple hours.
Well, because you're with musicians, you could do that. Like I can't geek out on synths with anybody.
Yeah, right. Well,
parties.
I grew up skating too, so I could talk about skateboarding with somebody like that. But yeah, it's funny. It's like that is the way to not get girls, is to stand in the corner talking about modular synthesizers.
Oh yeah, what's that like? So being a musician, sometimes girls will be into comics.
Right.
And I think that's so fascinating because to me, I'm like, musicians exist. You know what I mean? Like, well, why don't you go there for like, what are you doing here? Like, I don't mind it, but if I was a girl, I feel like I'd be like all over the musicians.
Yeah. I mean, musicians seem to do okay, but I mean, a lot of, girls, guys, whatever. I mean, sense of humor goes a long way.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of my friends that do quite well because of
the sense of humor. I just feel like there's something different. Like they're similar and they're different in that bands, and it's such a heart game. It's like you can passively listen to it. It's just so accessible. It crosses languages. You don't have to think about it. A joke, there's syntax. There's all these. You're like, oh yes, that's clever. Or you have to have all your processing power listening to these words.
Yeah.
Whereas music, you can get caught up in it. You can get swept away.
Right.
So I just feel like it's so much more of a powerful and emotional experience for people.
Yeah, I mean, I find that just somebody who can talk without being self-conscious about whatever they're good at or whatever, or listen also, and just be able to do that is I admire that. I wonder, because there are stand-up comics I know that are super awkward in person, or that they're not actually even funny in person,
Yeah, there is that.
Because there's different types, there's people that can turn that on, and I know, musician friends that are very, very funny in real life, but they would never be able to do a stand-up.
They're different things, like conversationally funny.
Yeah, right.
Because I'll hear that all the time. Like, oh, my friend, he's like so funny. We tell him to do stand-up, and like I don't deny your friend is funny.
Right.
But there's a big difference between like this type of funny and getting on a stage for a crowd.
Yeah.
Because this is a conversation. There's goodwill. There's no expectations. It's like a ping pong match. But on stage, you learn this early on. The longer you go without a joke, the bigger the punchline has to be.
Right.
So it's all about economy of words.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the audience they just feel like their time is wasted.
Right.
Yeah. So you have to be more concise with your ideas. Yeah. You can't be long-winded. You can't take an idea that's like this and make it a 5-minute bit.
Right. Well, also, I mean, going back to something we were kind of talking about earlier is like, I think I've talked to you about this. There's certain things that about once you're on that stage, you're like, it's like all super, like you feel empowered in a way. I don't know why or
I think because I've done it so much.
Yeah, totally.
You're kind of sitting in your power. This is, I've been doing it so many years. I've done so many sets. I've done late night at the comedy stores where those are I've done every show imaginable and so many of them that, like this imposter syndrome that some artists have, or like it's easy to creep up in your mind too. Occasionally be like, oh, I'm a phony or I'm not good. And you know what I mean? It's just human nature to be like, oh, I suck. Or whenever you feel that creeping in though, I go like, if not me, then who? Like I feel like how long I've been doing it, the things I've done, like some of the accolades, and I like the jokes that I create and stuff, and I go, like a helicopter pilot isn't afraid to fly.
Right.
Because when people are like, aren't you scared up there? A helicopter pilot isn't. No, it's what he does.
Is it all the 10,000 hours or whatever.
And the same is true of stand-up. Like,
yeah, totally.
When I'm up there, I'm like, who better than me to be doing this? I've seen this a million times.
Right.
And even when I get a heckler or something, not that it happens a lot, but like just doing stand-up statistically, someone's going to have too much to drink and they'll kind of interrupt the show. And I almost like it.
Totally. Me too,
because I go like, oh, I've dealt with this a billion times.
Yeah.
This is not going to go well for you.
Yeah.
And this is just going to be fun because I know my bits. I don't know where we're going to go with this, but it's going to be fun for the room and not for you. It's going to be a teachable moment for you.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, there's that thing also. Like Seinfeld says, like he feels the most himself when he's on stage, which seems like sort of sad for his family. But no, but like I mean, I don't feel most myself when I'm on stage. But I will say, if I'm performing my music and somebody heckles me, for example, like
does that happen?
Yeah,
with music.
Like, yeah, some asshole will be like, "I'll play something we can dance to," and I'm like, "Hey, just literally everybody's dancing." Yeah. But somebody heckles me in real life, just wherever, and it makes me self-conscious. But
we get heckled at Coffee Bean.
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing with these Coffee Beans?
No, but I mean, for example, we can play at Coachella, and I'm not nervous, but I had to read the best man speech at Michael's wedding, and my hands are shaking. I got a piece of paper. There's 50 people in front of me, and that's terrifying to me. So yeah, it's a totally different thing. What freaks you out, and where you feel at home, and what sort of context you feel comfortable.
Yeah, where your power is, where it isn't.
That's right. Yeah.
Even in that same vein, like me doing stand up into a microphone for a crowd, I'm a duck in water. It's like
totally.
I like that. But even giving a speech at a best man thing, I think that'd be hard for me. I mean, it wouldn't be crippling because I've built the tools as a stand up to kind of like cope with these feelings that creep in.
Right.
But it is a little different than stand up. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So even though you would think like, oh, this guy would just crush it at doing a speech, in my mind, it's a little different.
Well, because you have to be genuine and authentic in a different, completely different way. You've done that. It's worked. You have come to believe like, okay, I believe in this or whatever. And, you don't know.
It's the same, but different enough to kind of throw you off a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Huh. So were you doing original music from the jump, or was remixes kind of a way to get in?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been writing songs of various degrees of quality since I was a kid.
Do you have a hard drive which is a ton of incomplete?
There's tons of stuff that nobody.
It's like the Prince library, the Prince vault.
Oh, you know what's crazy? Oh, I can't talk about it, but
is this a Dance Hour exclusive?
I met the guy who's editing the new Prince documentary, and he couldn't really tell me all the confidential stuff, but there's a lot of crazy stuff.
I heard every part of his room was wired for sound, so he can make a song in the bathroom if he wanted to.
But there's a ton of music that should never come out.
Remixing stuff.
But we sort of, I've been playing in bands with Mike since we were kids, and then I went to Berkeley, and he was in a band that tried to do their thing, and then we ended up coming together. And our first sort of foray into dance music was remixing people. And
what was the first? And what is that process? Do you just go out and do it, or do you get sent the stems? And like, is it sanctioned by the reps?
I think we did a couple for friends bands that were somewhat established.
Do I know the friends?
Not really, probably, but it was just
name. I want to know how deep I go.
I don't even remember, man. But it was enough to build up something where at least somebody wanted to ask us to do something. And I think the first one that Yacht was one of them. And that was a big one for us.
They're from Portland?
Yeah, but they live here now.
Okay.
We remixed one of their songs. I still think that's one of the things that gets the most streams to this day. But and then we were huge fans of the band Phoenix.
Oh, I love Phoenix too. Yeah.
And they a label asked us to do a remix for them.
Whiskamania?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then that's how we got our start. And then we started making our own stuff, and people we met some people that wanted to release that, which was, and that's kind of what we're more focused on now.
What? Just like solo
just making
your own
stuff. Yeah, every once in a while, if something seems interesting, we'll take a crack at remixing it. I think for us, the best sort of ripest material is something that we just hear it, we have a different idea for it immediately, and then can go with it. Otherwise, it's kind of like there's certain songs that we like, they're just perfect. So it's like, what are we going to add to it? Yeah,
I feel like the remix game is a great entry point for a lot of bands. That's kind of how I learned about a lot of bands, just through the remixes, especially because Hype Machine.
Right. Yeah.
It seems like they're very remix centric. Yeah. Maybe less so nowadays, but I know in the heyday when I was on there, maybe like 8 years ago, 10 years ago, it was just ripe with remixes.
Right.
So that's how I learned about Breakbot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who else? Is it Yuxek?
Yeah. That's funny because that's our generation of like we're friends with all those people.
Oh, okay.
And everything. Yeah.
Sometimes they would come by the store too. Like I forgot who. Oh man, I forgot there's this one artist I like too, but he was actually heckling this like it sucked because they're kind of like your music hero or whatever, and like I'm a fan of this person. And then my buddy got off. Like Nick Youssef. He got off, and then he's like,
"All your guys that you're talking about are French." It's like he's not fini.
Yeah. I think he was French too.
Yeah, right.
Oh, I forgot. I think he did a remix of "Friendly Fires." Do you know?
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about, and I'm not gonna name him because he's a really good friend of mine. But he is
maybe he had too much to drink.
I'll tell you.
Sometimes I'll give people passes.
His name is Vito, but that's the.
Okay. But yeah, I remember that night.
He speaks French, but he's actually Belgian.
Okay. But yeah, I'm a fan of him too.
Yes.
But I'm at a crossroads because like he heckled my boy. What?
Yeah. No, he's one of those guys that's kind of like an asshole with a heart of gold. Like that's kind of his vibe. But he rubs some people very much the wrong way.
Yeah, I can see that. What's funny is for some reason I'm always trying to like turn my friends on to you guys, especially before we knew each other. Hasan Minhaj, because we're boys.
Oh.
Like we were just doing stand up around LA, and then I'm like, you were playing at Dim Mac, I believe.
Okay.
I'm like, well, let's see these guys.
Tuesdays.
So I brought Dim Mac Tuesday. Cool. So I brought him, and it was great, man. It was like,
that's a
just
long
two
time.
brown guys letting loose.
Sick.
It was just Holding On came on, and that's my jam.
Yeah, cool.
Like, I mean, there's a lot of jams, but for some reason, that phase of my life, that was on repeat a lot.
Cool.
Yeah. And then, I just remember me and him just letting loose on the dance floor, listening to the Holding On at Dim Mac on Tuesdays.
I wish you guys playing. I wish I could go back and see that happen.
Yeah. And it was a really cool moment for me and memory that I kind of go back to because like he went to New York.
Yeah, right.
Kind of shortly after. And
yeah.
So that's a nice little LA moment that has all my worlds colliding
at a
really
certain
moment in the comedy scene and dance scene. It's like a nice little stamp.
Oh, I love that. That's great.
And a precursor to like how life takes you down these roads and you meet people.
I know, it's such a strange thing, man. It's cool though.
Very cool.
There you have it.
There you have it. That's a nice little bow tie on it, huh? Well, thanks for doing the pod. I like doing this because I get to have, for now, I mean, I just like having people I like and are friends and are talented and already have a rapport with. Maybe eventually down the line, I'll get, some PR people will say, hey, but it's just so much easier. Just living in this town, you meet people who are good, and I'd rather just have a conversation with a friend who I think people need to know about.
Oh, that's super nice. Yeah. It's also just cool to talk with somebody. Person.
Yeah, I know.
This is
something a little better than
that,
I know.
It
cool. Works. And then you're doing some solo stuff now, right? Didn't you put out a track recently?
Yeah, I'm starting to do some of that, and Michael is too. We're still putting out Classixx stuff. We have.
What's the timeline on that? Are you working on a new album?
We've got a single coming out in, I think, December. Maybe in November. I don't know. Depending on this election, I don't know if we want to put out music.
Drop it on election night.
Yeah, but I don't know. That'll be. We've got Classixx music coming out this year, which I'm happy about.
Very cool. I'm happy about that too.
I've started putting out music that's solo, and that's called Oceans 1985. And Michael's music, I should give him a plug, is really good. It's just Michael David. It's super Very, very good music.
That's sort of like when rappers do acting.
Yeah.
I'm not Snoop Dogg. I'm Calvin Brodus.
That's
I'm
right.
not Jay-Z. I'm Sean Carter. Take me seriously.
Yeah, that's Michael.
I'm not LL Cool J. What's his real name? Something James.
Oh,
no, LL's the only one who kept it, right?
Oh, LL's just LL Cool J on his birth certificate.
Maybe on his license.
Yeah.
And then the cop looks at the license and then looks at him and he goes.
What do you call LL? Like
it was supposed to be like ladies love Cool James.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's what it was supposed to be. Yeah.
Oh, so you know
it's very AOL screen name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Sick.
LL Cool J. That's kind of why my screen name was called Slez Dog, because when I was doing an AOL screen name,
right,
I did SL space E space Z Dog. So it'd be like Slee Z Dog. And I thought I was being, look, I'm like 13. I thought I was being brilliant. Like,
that is very good.
You've cracked it.
Yeah.
You're brilliant. So, okay, Classixx music, some solo stuff. And anything else you want to plug? Socials like Instagram or...
Yeah, I mean, Classixx is just at Classixx. Classixx is spelled with 2 X's at the end. 2 S's and 2 X's. It makes it easy to find.
Yeah. So. Hop on Spotify. Just binge it all.
Yeah,
type it in the hype machine. Just, do a deep dive because like everything they do is great and I'm a big fan.
Oh, thanks, buddy.
So I always like send it out to a track at the end of the podcast.
Oh, cool.
I think it's only natural.
Yeah.
I'm going to do Holding On by Classixx.
Right. Thanks,
so I'll have the link in the description. If you're listening, it'll play right after this. Rate, review the pod, comment, all that, thumbs up. And I'll see you guys next week.
I don't even know where to look. But...
I don't either.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Take it easy.